Hello, everybody. Happy Friday. Welcome to Cup Chat Live. Thank you so much for joining us today. It is an honor to be here with you. Hope you all are doing well. I'm joined today by my new friend, James, who is a member of the National Cub Scouting Committee. James, how are you doing today?
I'm great, thank you. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for joining us. James is well qualified to talk about this topic. This is another in our STEM series of shows. We've done a handful of episodes over the last couple of months about the integration of STEM into the Cub Scout program updates that are officially live and have been officially live for some time now. James is uniquely qualified to discuss this. He is a volunteer. He's just like the rest of you guys. James, maybe just tell the folks a little bit about your background and how you got involved.
Oh, absolutely. So I got involved. My son came home a number of years ago now with a flyer that says, "Hey, come join Cub Scouts." And I knew how much fun I had doing it. And I thought, well, this would be a great opportunity for him too. A chance for some father-son bonding time. And from there, just really took off. I've now been involved at the district council and the national level.
Very, very cool. We are happy to have you. And you're a teacher, is that right?
Yes, I'm a math teacher. So STEM is something very close to near and dear to my heart.
Exactly. So yeah, we always like to remind people that the brains behind the program are not the people like me who work for Scouting America. It's volunteers, dedicated volunteers like James, who are actually smart, not like me. So James, we're certainly thank you for your service, and we're happy to have you today. Again, the theme today is the technology themed STEM adventures. And we were talking a little bit, I'd like to kind of set the scene a little bit, James, before we really dive in. We were talking before we went live about the idea in the Cub Scout program updates of technology or really any themed adventures that go across ranks, right? So that's one of the things about these program updates is that there are adventures, as you can see there. Shout out to behind the scenes, Gina, who's running the show today. Thank you, Gina. Brian, behind the scenes, Brian taking a well-deserved vacation day. But yeah, as you can see, a set of STEM adventures across the ranks. Maybe, James, again, as we get started, what's the idea behind this? Why is it good to have similarly themed adventures across different ranks that, kids of different ages, if you need to, can do them together?
Absolutely. So one of the things that I had noticed in just talking to other units was that sometimes we had packs that just didn't have many scouts, might only have one or two wolves, but a whole bunch of bears, or, not quite enough for a full den. But when you combined age groups together, you could have them. Well, rather than have those Cub Scouts work on the same activity for the wrong rank, year after year, we wanted to give them their own adventures where they can still get the most out of the program in an age appropriate way that will still be fun and new to them. And so that even if we're touching on the same topics every year, character development, personal fitness, things like that, the requirements are new and they'll still be fun and engaging for our Cubs.
Definitely makes not only fun and engaging for the Cub Scouts, but fun, simple, and easy for the Cub Scout leaders. It was not like this back in my day, James. I'm not going to say how long ago that was, but as a recovering Cub Scout leader, that was sometimes a challenge, right? So very, very cool. Thanks to all of you who have shouted out in the comments. Good to see you, Rob, Wendy, Justin, Richard, and Brian. Thank you guys for joining the show. We appreciate it very much. Wendy has done something very, very valuable. She has tagged some friends in the comments. Definitely encourage anyone to do that. Anyone who you think might enjoy this discussion, please tag them. And as a reminder, once we're done talking today, this show will live on here on Facebook, wherever you're watching for another few weeks, and on YouTube for longer than that. And you can also listen to Cub Chat Live as a podcast. If you're listening in your car right now, a recorded version of this on the way to work, shout out to you. Thank you for doing that. We appreciate it. Good to see you. Rusty, thank you for joining us. All right, James, let's get into this. What inspired the addition of these technology? We're talking about technology electives. Yes. What inspired the addition of these technology electives? You were there during you were in the room when the discussions were going on. How'd that come about?
Well, the big thing for the program was, like you had said, keep it fun, simple, and easy for our leaders. And what we had found was that the Nova and Supernova programs, while fantastic, I was a Nova counselor and a Supernova mentor, just weren't as well known. and we recognized that we wanted as much as possible within line of sight of the leaders. So while we loved the NOVA program, we wanted something that would still be accessible to everyday leaders who might be doing it for the very first time this year. It took me 3 years to learn about the NOVA Awards.
Yeah.
I was a Cub Master, not a den leader anymore. And so my Cub Scouts, my den, missed out on that opportunity as lions and tigers, or tigers and wolves at that point. So we want to still integrate technology, and we recognize that that's an important part of kids just growing up these days, and teach them how to use it properly. But we wanted it to be accessible.
Yeah, I was the same way, actually. When I was a Cub Master, after doing it for 2 or 3 years, I would still learn about awards that existed that I didn't know about. And one of the most common questions we got on Cub Chat Live and on other forums was, what's happening to the NOVA Awards? And I think the answer is they're still there. They're just built into the program. Those activities are still there. Is that accurate, James?
Yes. So while there was a comment from Brian that the National stepped back from issuing the medals, but yes, we recognize technology is important. We still want to incorporate that into the program, just not as a separate program.
You know what? I didn't even see Brian's comment. Thank you for bringing that up, James. But right on cue, Brian. Excellent question. Yeah, that was one of the most common questions we've gotten about the updated program. We're going to get into some of these specific adventures in just a little bit, but maybe, James, you could kind of explain what we're looking at here. I'm seeing a set of adventures across the ranks. Some of them are bold. Can you kind of interpret this for us?
Absolutely. The bold adventures are brand new. So these were adventures that did not exist under the old program. Those that are not in bold I remember Earth Rocks was my son's favorite when he was a Weeblo. And so we spent a lot of time doing that adventure. But so those exist. Some have had their requirements updated, maybe modified a little bit, but the ones in bold are completely new. Well, were new as of last year.
Right. Very cool. And so again, correct me if I'm wrong. Obviously, the Cub Scout program is still age specific. So
Yes.
Lions are not going to do the same things as Arrow of Light Scouts. But when you look at this chart, for example, the top row science, all of those in the row horizontal could be done together. Is that the idea, James?
That's the hope. There are, with the science ones and with the technology, there are some differences. For the technology, I know the AOL's going on or plan and take a 2-mile hike.
Right.
Our Lions aren't going to be doing that, but we are keeping the same theme. Absolutely.
We're going to dive into the specifics of some of these adventures in just a second. Rob, I'm Rob. Sorry, I'm looking at Rob in the comments. James, how do these elective help Cub Scouts build skills for the future? Technology, it's not going anywhere, but I'm curious your thoughts on that.
Absolutely. So again, professionally as a math teacher, I recognize that our kids have a distinct need for abstract problem solving. And we want them to be comfortable using technology and using these tools as tools, not just as gaming devices or as a way to waste time, but something that they can really grow from.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think phones and smart devices are going away anytime soon. So I love how we address this as a program in the same way we address hiking safety, first aid. These are skills that kids need to know as they grow up and develop in the world, and that's what scouting is all about, really. So, if you're okay with it, James, let's go in. If Gina could throw the chart back up, and
Sure.
let's talk about some of the adventures specifically. We'll start with the kindergarten, the Lion Adventure Everyday Tech.
Absolutely.
Yeah, what can you tell us about that?
Well, Everyday Tech is really it's what the name says. It's introducing our kindergartners to appropriate technology that they're using in their everyday lives. It's not always incredibly advanced. It could be the difference between a car versus a horse and buggy. Well, that car is still technology, but we are demystifying it a little bit for our kids and also for our leaders. We recognize that some leaders aren't necessarily comfortable with all the technology, certainly as quickly as it's advancing.
Right.
And we want to point out and help our Cub Scouts learn that these are everyday things. This isn't anything to be scared of. That's just a part of normal life.
Yeah, I'm looking at the requirements here on my other screen, James. Discover technology around your home, meeting place, or
Mhm.
neighborhood. Discover ways that digital technology can make life easier, and identify an item of digital technology you use at home. Like you said, that's cool because it leaves open a wide variety of possibilities. A phone, obviously, a computer, things like that, and then demonstrate to your line adult partner how you use it safely, which of course is also an important part of the program.
Absolutely.
I also want to point out the Cub Scout resources online also involve a couple of games on there that are really, really cool that you can play with your lions that are kind of technology themed games. It's great stuff. Very, very cool. That's the everyday tech adventure in the Lions program. Let's move on to our first grade Tigers. And the adventure there is called Tech All Around, I believe. Gina will advance to that slide. And as she does that, James, what can you tell us about Tech All Around?
Well, Tech All Around shares some commonalities with the Lion program. We want to talk about why or how technology is so pervasive. We're going to introduce concepts of digital technology here. So not just, the car, but, your computer or tablet, something like that. The big thing with the younger scouts requirements is we also have them implement or come up with policies for using technology safely, because we recognize that our Cub Scouts are, digital natives as all the young people are today, and we want them to make sure that they are safe when utilizing the technology, but that it also makes it easier, or they make it easier for us as well.
Yeah, I love that idea. It says with your parent or legal guardian, set up a policy for digital devices. I love the idea of them sort of doing that as a team, as they're talking about safety, ways digital devices can make your life easier. You can also come up with a policy, for your family, which is very, very cool.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I like it. Let's move on to the next one, which is Computing Wolves. This is the Wolf Technology Adventure. James, your thoughts on this one?
So Computing Wolves is where we really start to get into computers specifically, not just talking about general technology in the house. Children will learn to identify basic parts of the computer. They're going to learn how to dispose of electronics properly and appropriately, and also use technology or a digital app to tell a story. So we're still fostering that creativity, but giving them an opportunity really to utilize that in a way that lets them express themselves and express themselves to their peers. If that's a PowerPoint or a Google Slides or any one, Canva, there's hundreds of different apps that we can use for storytelling. And we want our Cub Scouts to just pick the one that speaks to them or that their leader is most comfortable with, to give them a chance for that collaborative storytelling.
Very, very cool. Yeah, boy, I have to admit that this is the first time I noticed this, James. Determine how to properly dispose of computer components, because we really don't want those to go in our landfills, right? So, because there's some harmful stuff in there. That's great. What a cool activity and a cool things for kids to learn, things that nobody taught me that when I was young. So that's very, very cool. I like that a lot. Shout out real quick to Lillian, who's watching in Detroit. Rob says this one is a great one for a pack meeting. Very, very cool, Rob. Yeah, a lot of these cross-rank adventures make great pack activities if that works for your pack. Like, maybe a smaller pack, maybe a larger pack. If it works for you, go for it. That is the idea. Very, very cool. Let's move on to our next one, and we've now reached the third grade bear dens, I think, right? Chef Tech.
Yes, Chef Tech.
Yep.
Chef Tech takes a little bit of a turn. So the focus isn't just on using technology generally, but we're having Cub Scouts use the technology in the kitchen. Now, I know that when my son was a bear, as soon as he got his whittling chip, anytime there was something to be cut, he wanted to cut. And so that was vegetables a lot of times, which also meant that he was more likely to eat them. So it was a win-win, in my opinion. But he would really like, and I think a lot of Cub Scouts do want to help, especially with meal preparation. So when we're looking at technology here, that could be a microwave, an air fryer. We're not all cooking over open fires all the time although that does sound kind of fun.
Yep.
It also sounds terribly inconvenient for breakfast, but
Yep. Yep.
so we're giving the Cub Scouts a chance to do that and to take some ownership in meal planning by finding recipes online and then executing them with their families.
Yeah, and again, I want to, if you haven't explored the Cub Scouting page on scouting.org, that's the official guidance there. If it's a scouting.org website, that's when you know that it's official guidance, and there's all kinds of good information for this adventure about food allergies, the Scouting America annual health and medical record, whittling adventure, knife safety, things like that. Like you said, keeping your food safe. So it's really cool how you've taken technology and applied it to something that we all do every day, right? Cooking. I just did a blog post, James, recently about the chemistry merit badge, and that's one of the things they did. They took chemistry, which people think of as this hard to understand science, and you apply it to cooking. I kind of see this as sort of the Cub Scout version of that, right? You're taking technology
Absolutely.
and the kitchen where people are in there every day, right?
Absolutely. We want things to be relevant, but also accessible. That's really important. Is that we would hate to see an adventure not be done because it was just too difficult for a leader to manage, or they didn't know where to start. And that's also, and you touched on this, where the Den Leader resources come in. We've got great ideas for how to satisfy requirements. So if you're just drawing a blank, or if, like I have been, that Den Leader who's like, oh man, we've got scouts tonight, what am I doing?
Yeah.
Well, here's an opportunity to find those ideas.
Hey, we've all been there. At least most of us have. I sure have. Yeah. Shout out to Susan from Burlington, Connecticut. Thank you for watching, Susan, on Facebook. Appreciate that. The Webelos themed technology adventure is called Tech on the Trail. So speaking of taking technology and applying it to other, things, and we're getting kids outdoors. That's great.
Absolutely. We always want to have the aims and methods in our purview or in our line of sight when we're coming up with these requirements, just to make sure that we are still an outdoor program. We absolutely are. And while, disassembling a computer might not be necessarily an outdoor activity or best suited for doing on a camping trip, Tech on the Trail really is an opportunity for our Cub Scouts to utilize the tools that are readily available. So, but it involves our knot tying, because as Webelos, we start to work towards that transition to Scouts BSA. And so we're going to teach them how to tie knots and how to use GPS, talk about how GPS apps work and how satellites work.
That's great. Yes. Susan, who just joined us from Burlington, Connecticut, said they had a very positive experience, it sounds like, with Tech on the Trail. That's very, very cool, Susan. Thank you for sharing that. I think we could probably do a whole show, James, about taking technology outdoors and the role of technology on camping trips and hiking trips. But there's no arguing the fact that it's useful and it can keep you safe. I love the idea of that's requirement number one of this adventure, is discuss how technology can help keep you safe in the outdoors. You talk about global positioning satellites with an adult. Choose an online program mapping tool and plan a 2-mile trek. What a great use of technology there. And then wrapping up the requirement, again, taking the 2-mile trek, not something you would do with your younger scouts, obviously, not something you do at a pack meeting, but something that this is Webelos, right? Yeah, the Webelos would do on their own. Very, very cool. Again, I love the idea of taking this technology. People think of it as people sitting around on a couch on their phone, but it's showing you how it can be useful. You can still go outdoors. You can still do all these things that we do in scouting and use technology in an appropriate and safe way. I love it. We have one last one to look at. It's called High Tech Camping. This is the Arrow of Light technology themed adventure. James, what can we share with folks about this one?
So I had them backwards in my head, to be completely honest. This is the one where we talk about the knot tying apps and
I didn't even notice, James. It's okay. Yes. The weather app.
But also talking about how technology. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say using a weather app to check the forecast, things like that. Yep.
Yeah, but then also talking about how technology has influenced our camping gear. Yeah. Things like, when I was camping, we were all in heavy canvas tents. And I remember camping in the rain, and that was a miserable schlep of all of our gear back to the car. We don't have any of the technology that we do now with materials that will just sheet off the water, that stay dry, that are much lighter. We talk about that in high-tech camping as well. Why we aren't all still in canvas, because we've got better options now.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, technology is not just about screens, right? Technology has affected everything. You mentioned horse and buggy earlier. Raincoats, are better now than they were. A lot of our outdoors gear, you mentioned tents, all that stuff like that. Mm-hmm. They're lighter, but yet still somehow better keep you protected from the elements than they did back when you and I were kids, James. So yeah, I love that. Rob says he had to use his phone in Google Earth to find the lost orienteering markers at one of the council camps. Very good, Rob. We appreciate your hard work. Very, very cool. The roaming scouter, don't discount the knot tying app. The 3D models help with those more complex knots. We could do a whole show on knot tying too, James, but boy, that's a great point. There's only so much you can do with knot illustration, with 2D knot illustrations. I mean, I can't tell you how many times, James, when I was trying to teach a Cub Scout how to tie a knot, I'm looking at a 2D illustration, kind of confused myself by it. So yeah, I'm definitely going to have to try this 3D knot mapping software.
I have to say I use it, and I never made it past Weeblo, so I didn't have to know the bowline. But now when teaching, my scouts how to tie them, I still have to use the app.
Yeah,
I have Nuts 3D on my phone just for a completely unsanctioned plug there.
Absolutely, very, very cool. Yeah, and again, real quick, we'll address requirement 1: use a weather app or website to see the forecast. Yes. Again, we could do a whole show about our phones okay on campouts, and we're not here to say yes or no, but that kind of technology definitely can make a difference. So, a thunderstorm that moves in unexpectedly that can be it. That can make or break a camping experience. So, love that we're teaching kids how to do that. Requirement number 4: think of a way technology can improve camping gear used on one of your outdoor activities. Great stuff. So that was a look at the technology-themed adventures across all of the ranks. There are similar adventures for science, engineering, and math. Very, very cool stuff. Let's talk real quick, if we could, James, about challenges that PACs might face when implementing these electives. What kind of challenges have you come across, and what kind of advice would you give to folks who are looking to do these kind of things?
I think some of the biggest challenges have been a lack of comfort with some of the requirements. You might not know how GPS satellites work. I didn't before looking into it, but if I've got to teach that to some elementary age children, I'm going to have to go learn. We do have those den meeting resources again. I also have no problems whatsoever encouraging families and units to, if that's a den or a pack, to go to the library. They have fantastic resources. They've got internet access for looking up anything, if that's information on global positioning systems or even finding recipes to download. You don't have to do that in the kitchen. You can do that anywhere, but it's a great way to introduce a requirement before, having the families complete that activity at home. Another one, bring in experts. I'm very fortunate where I live. We are not too far from NASA Jet Propulsion Labs. We've got people who really, really know about satellites and technology. And we've got a couple of rocket test facilities not too far from us either. So those experts exist, and a lot of them would love to come and talk to either a den or a whole pack. It can make a great pack meeting if you want it to be space themed, to bring in those people and have them talk to our Cubs as, in a way that is accessible to them and obviously taught by experts.
Yeah, that's a great idea. And, I think we're now about in year 5 of attending. We've all attended virtual meetings and Zoom. So even if you don't have an expert nearby, there's a really good chance that there's someone who'd be willing to visit with your pack virtually. What a cool use of technology that would be. If you're not comfortable with Zoom, somebody in your pack is. So it's not that hard to set up a Zoom on a TV in front of a pack and do some sort of interactive discussion that way. You mentioned a second ago, I want to back up almost the opposite direction, the old-fashioned library. I mean, that's one of the most valuable resources right there. It was like that. Well, that's one of the things that hasn't changed. When I was a kid, it was valuable. It's definitely valuable today. I would also add that I feel like another thing that maybe hasn't changed that much, James, is I was probably around the 4th or 5th grade when I started becoming more comfortable with technology than my parents. And I think that's probably still true today. My kids around that same age started to know more about technology than I did. So again, a plug for the DIN meeting resources, which will tell you everything you need to know. So don't be scared to teach like things like GPS. Even if you don't know what that stands for, there's information there that you can teach that to your Cub Scouts on the official Cub Scout resource page. Before we let you go, James, we kind of touched on this earlier, but I would love to wrap up our show with your thoughts on how these technology-related electives tie into the larger goals of Cub Scouting and Scouting America in general, right? Our goal is to prepare kids for life. And I feel like these technology goals do that, but I'd love to get your thoughts on that.
Well, we agree. And I absolutely agree that our goal is to prepare our scouts for life. And if that's through character development, by promoting responsible stewardship of our resources, so maybe recycling some of those electronics that the wolves had to disassemble. Yep. If that's encouraging personal fitness by planning and executing that 2-mile hike, absolutely. We want to citizenship, how to be kind online. And unfortunately, we definitely have an exception here because everybody in the comments has been very kind, but yes, the rest of the internet is not that way, unfortunately. Yep. So the more we can do to encourage our young people to be kind, to be responsible citizens, I think the world would be a better place.
I 100% agree with you. Yeah, shout out to all of our commenters on Cub Chat Live. We're not talking today about You're Lucky, James, because this is not really a controversial topic, but we have talked about controversial topics, and our viewers always behave themselves, even when they disagree, very, very scout-like. If the whole world was like that, I agree, it'd be a much better place. But what a great lesson to teach kids, right? About Absolutely. Just like we teach them how to behave in school, at church, at the supermarket, we teach them to behave online, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. This has been a great discussion, James. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you to all who are watching at home today. Any final thoughts before we let you go? Did we cover everything?
I think we've covered a lot of it, but I will say that for any day camp directors out there, the national theme is Invention Convention. So if you're looking for program ideas, it might not be a bad idea to check out the technology resources.
Awesome. That's great. Yeah, it is hard to believe. It is day camp season. Brian says, thanks for a great Cub Chat. I would love for a mechanism to update the Novas. Yeah, I know. Again, that's the most passionate thing. People feel very strongly about the Nova Awards. But I think that, again, correct me if I'm wrong, James, that not enough people knew about them. And it's better if they're sort of rolled into the existing adventures and electives, right?
Absolutely, at least from a national level. I know some councils have their own NOVA programs, and we absolutely encourage, if there's a critical mass in your council to have the NOVA program, please do. Absolutely do, because I love it. I think they're a great resource. I just don't know that national is the best venue for that in this case.
Right. Perfect. A great comment. We keep on getting good comments, James. A great comment from Cassie at the Den Leader, someone who works at a public library. Yes, definitely take advantage of local library services. The printing, 3D print. We have a 3D printer at my local library down here. Technology access, research tools. I've even checked out a telescope for my den. How cool is that? Love it. Thank you, Cassie, for that comment. Want to give everybody a heads up. Next Friday on Cub Chat Live, we're going to be talking about a Cub Scouting program. It's a family program. We're going to be talking about family camping at high adventure bases, including a new property that you guys might not have heard about. Not a new property, but a new family camping opportunity at an old property. Join us next Friday. How's that for a tease, James? Join us next Friday for that show. Thank you again, James, for joining us. It's great to see you. We'll have to have you on again sometime very soon. And again, have a good weekend, everybody. Good job, James. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in today. Be sure to catch next week's episode. Same time, same place. And let us know how we're doing at go.scoutingmagazine.org/rate-cubchat. We love feedback and ideas for new episodes. And you can visit blog.scoutingmagazine.org/cubchatlive for all our past video episodes. You can see us live. Except it's recorded, but it was live. Okay, see you next week.